We're talking about content that converts for service providers this week. So this
Yes.
continues our three-part series, this being the third part. And
Yep.
we ourselves have been service providers for years, so I feel like we're going to be able to just hash this out.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah, two weeks ago we talked about 5 tips for content that converts for coaches.
Yep.
So that video is available on the live stream tab on your channel if anyone wants to go watch that.
Mhm.
And then last week we talked about product sellers, and then this week service providers. So for me, when I think of online service providers, I tend to think about people like web and brand designers, social media managers, our Pinterest managers who have a special place in our hearts, of course. OBMs, virtual assistants, people like that who are doing like done for you
Yeah.
work online. And also, sometimes like they'll have like, done with you type of work too, but people who are the service providers. And like you said, you and I were both service providers primarily for years before
Yeah.
we both kind of, pivoted into like more of the one-to-many offers. But yeah, we have a lot to say about this. So we
Yeah.
do. Yep.
And honestly, there's so many takes on creating content as a service provider that attracts clients, but like this is your specialty, especially for coaches and service providers with HLC.
Yeah.
Um,
True that.
so like put you on a little pedestal because
All right.
you're
I'll
you're
I'll
like
climb up
really good
there.
at it.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. But you are too. I mean, you've done it for your own business for so long. So
But listen, you guys,
Mm.
Jana said that she's going to climb up there. She really actually needs a ladder. So
Yes. Yep. For those of you that only watch us on YouTube, you may not realize that I'm 5 feet, just barely 5 feet. So I would need a ladder if I was going to get up on that pedestal. But yeah. Do you want me to start with my first one and then we can kind of
yes.
go from there? Okay. All right. So 5 hot tips for service providers. So the first one is going to be one that it's not super sexy, but I think it's really important. One of the best things you can do in your content, and I teach blog writing, conversion friendly, conversion driving blog writing inside of high leverage content. So I think of blogs, but this is true in all content. One of the best things you can create content about is problems that your audience has. Um, and it's really important to get very specific about those problems and not be too high level, like really hone in on the problems that your particular audience has that are the things that you help with through your offers. And what I see a lot of people do by accident when they're thinking about, okay, what problems do my audience have that I want to write my blog posts about and then therefore, create other content onto because we have a system in HLC where we write blog posts first and then we repurpose and break that down into all different kinds of content for other places too. Big mistake people make is that they choose problems that are like, it's almost like they go into diagnosis mode and they think, okay, think about all my ideal clients, people I've worked with, people I observe online. What are the problems I see with what they're doing? And we want to make sure we're not just thinking about the problems that we know they have, but rather like the hair on fire, like really, really prevalent, somewhat painful, really, problems that they have that they know they have. So think about your best fit clients. What are those hair on fire problems? Not the ones that we think they have, but the ones that they know that they have. An
Yeah.
example of this for like my brand strategist would be like, you don't want to be like running around everywhere saying like, you need brand clarity. Your problem is you have no brand clarity. Um,
I don't even know what that means.
right. I mean, we kind of know what it means, and it like people sort of know what it means, but it doesn't hit that button. It doesn't hit that hair on fire problem. So
Mhm.
you need to think about what problems they have that they know they have. So peel back the layers and what does it mean when they don't have brand clarity? If you're seeing that they don't have brand clarity, what problems is that actually causing in their day-to-day life? Um, and I have a little sleeper exercise that's tucked inside in a little lesson in high leverage content where we go through this like day-to-day process where you're literally thinking, okay, when they don't have brand clarity, what happens throughout the entire day when they wake up in the morning all the way to when they fall asleep at night in their average day, that what happens because they don't have brand clarity? What problems is that causing for them that they know about that feel like those hair on fire problems? So an example would be like you're getting traffic to your website, but no inquiries. That's a very specific problem that certain people's ideal audiences would have.
Yeah.
Um, and it's really only for your audience. So, like, if that's a problem that your audience has, great. But if you're maybe a web designer, let's say, who's working with people who are just starting their businesses, like you're creating their first website for them, then that might not be the problem they have, right? So you need to think
Yeah.
about what problems they actually have. But that would be an example. The problem isn't that they don't have brand clarity. It's that they're getting traffic to their site, but no inquiries. Not your new people, but the people, let's say you work with people who are maybe in the middle, kind of that messy middle part of their business. Um, so making sure that when you think about what problems you want to write your content about, that you don't pick topics that are just going to be like womp womp, that you're going to spend time writing, that no one really is going to stop the scroll for because they just don't sound interesting or important to them.
Yeah.
So that's my first tip is to focus on your content on the problems that your best clients already know they have and the ones that are like those like hair on fire problems, not just the problems that you wish that they knew they had, right? Um,
Hmm.
there's a different kind of content that I teach inside of high leverage content that actually is more about the problems you wish they knew they had, but it's not this kind. When you're writing problem content, you really, really want to be focusing on the kind that I just described. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
just not going to stop the scroll. No one's going to care. So that's my first tip.
That's so good. And if you do hire someone to do marketing for you and you're getting traffic to your website, their job is done. It's
Mm.
not up to them to convert on your website. So, like, let's revisit those messaging pieces. Let's revisit those problem solution dichotomies that you need to like fix and
You're
then
thinking,
continue.
you're thinking about those Pinterest managers, aren't you?
I am.
Don't worry, Pinterest managers. We know what your job is and we know what your job isn't.
I am.
Oh, can I add one more thing to what I said?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I wrote this down and I think this is worth sharing. So I would suggest an exercise for people where you write down like a quick list of what your ideal fit clients would literally say out loud right now if you were on a call with them and you said like, what are the biggest problems you have in your business right now?
Mhm.
So examples for that type of person, that website designer that I wrote down, where I hate my website, it's so embarrassing. Or I know I need to outsource social media, but I don't even know where to start. That would be like something for a social media manager or Pinterest, right? It'd be like,
Yeah.
I know I want to outsource Pinterest, but I don't even know where to start. I don't even know how the platform works.
Hmm.
Or I know my competitors are getting clients using Pinterest, and I don't even know the first thing about how to begin to do that, right?
Yeah.
Um, or we need better systems in my business. I'm dropping balls with clients because we don't have good systems and it's stressing me out. That would be the kind that, an OBM might write about. So use their language and make sure that you're really tapping into problems that they know that they have that feel very urgent for them.
Yeah. And sometimes people don't know exactly what the problem is. They have a feeling, but they don't actually know what like the root cause of the problem is. So if you can give examples like what Jana does in her content, it's so good. Like
Thank you.
do that. Do
Yep.
that. Lay
Yep.
it out. I just like a quick win for anyone that might be struggling with capturing all of this information. Because I know Jana's like amazing at doing this, but if you're not amazing at doing this, then
Okay.
recording your own calls and sticking them in a ChatGPT and asking like what the problems were, that's number one. Number two is actually making notes. As soon as the call is over, I want you to actually block in like 5 minutes after a call where you're not running to just like another meeting. So you can write down your own thoughts on what just happened in that call, what conversation transpired, what were the takeaways, what were the transformations. And then another thing that you can do, and this is kind of like a next level, is as you're ending the call with someone, ask them what their transformations were, especially if it's like strategy calls or coaching calls of any sort. I think this is a really good way for you to capture their words without having to like pull it out of them in like a form.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea a lot. So just like reserving a few minutes at the end of the call to say like, how did you feel this call went? Um, what would you say is like, do you feel like
Mhm.
you like know or can do things differently than when
Mhm.
we like before we started the call or something like that? I guess I'd have to
Yeah.
play with the words, but I like that idea of trying to
Yeah.
kind of elicit that kind of feedback straight from their mouths rather than
Mhm.
trying to guess what it was. Because I love that idea that you gave. I would say that's tip number two. Hot tip number two for today of our five is that like go to your own calls and using the recording and asking AI to help you, like putting it in ChatGPT and pulling out the wins or the transformations and the things that they said that were pain points in this case, right? If
Mhm.
we're looking for problems, is a great idea. I record all of my calls on Fathom, and so Fathom can actually
Mhm.
do some of that right inside Fathom as well, which is really helpful. I
Yeah.
don't even have to put it into ChatGPT, although I still do sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's such a good strategy, and I really like the idea of starting having that last question at the end. I'm gonna think about how I could phrase that.
Yeah.
What would
One
be
thing
like,
that
I'm trying
I
to think, what's a natural way to phrase that? Like, how would you say that just naturally at the end of a call? Because when I said it, it sounded dumb.
so I've done it like so I should preface this by saying all my calls, if I have like someone books a call, I have a question that says like, what's one thing that would make this call worth it for you that you like really want to know, learn, accomplish? So like we're setting expectations as they come in. So I'm using that as like the guiding, like measuring stick here to make sure the call goes on task with what their goals were. So it's, Jana, we came into this call wanting to know more about, Pinterest workflows. And now that we've identified your strength and weaknesses and like figuring out what's going to work for you and not work for you, like, do you feel like you can go away and craft your own workflow
Mhm. Yeah.
easily to stay on top of your Pinterest marketing?
Hmm.
Play around with it.
I like
Everyone's is
that.
going to be different.
Right. Okay.
Hello,
Good.
Tamisha. Hello,
Love it.
Sharon.
Hey, Tamisha and Sharon.
We
What's up,
have,
girls?
I know, what's up? We've missed you guys. We have tip number three, and it's about authority.
Mhm.
Talk to me about it.
Yeah, so building authority, or another way to think about it is like positioning yourself as an expert. To me, those feel very similar.
Mhm.
Authority is a little bit more about like the weight that your expertise has in the
Yeah,
space that you're in, right? But it's really important in order to position yourself as an expert and build that authority to basically teach people in your content not just how to do the thing, not just DIY tips and tricks, but also think about it as your content is also teaching them how to be a great client for your service. So for example, we'll go back to that brand designer, brand strategist, and maybe website designer. You could talk about what makes a brand like ready for a website redesign instead of just
yeah,
giving, those sort of tips and tricks that we tend to fall back on. For example, I see a lot of my web and brand designers who are in HLC or in my audience writing posts before they find HLC, my program, and learn what they should be writing.
yeah,
They're writing things like how to, choose a great color palette. Um, and that's sort of like their version of the example I use a lot for my health coaches, which is like health coaches are like, here's 5 healthy recipes. Um, it's kind of like that kind of content that's just tips and tricks and lifestyle ideas and whatnot, that doesn't really actually get to the heart of like helping them know how to be a good client for your offer and helping to like build demand for your offer. So
yeah,
shifting away, not entirely. I hear a lot of people online saying like, don't just do tips and tricks, but don't just do tips and tricks. It's okay to do some tips and tricks, but make sure you're
yeah,
balancing it out by also creating content that's actually teaching them how to be good, like be a good client for your offer. And that's what I call the conversion sort of side of things. I teach 9 pillars inside of HLC, and they're in 2 categories. That's why they're called the 9 and 2 pillars. On one side,
mhm,
you have your expertise content. On the other side, you have your conversion content, and you need both to build
mhm,
authority, and you need both to convert as well. So that's what I would say is just finding that balance. Yes, tips and tricks are okay a little bit, and I actually have ways that I like to structure content about tips and tricks so that it actually will be more high converting than just like,
yeah,
here's a good way to pick a brand palette, color palette. But you want to balance between both of those goals with your content, showing your expertise through tips and tricks and things, problem solving, for example, and also talking about your offer and what makes people ready for your offer. So
So good. So good. This is why you're the best at this.
thank you, Heather. I think what I just said might be a little bit obscure, actually, but it's,
Well,
I hope
I
people
got
get it. I think
it.
it, okay, I hope it's landing for people.
I have seen a number of blog posts on color psychology or choosing brand color palettes. I'm like, what does any of that even mean?
Yeah.
What does it
It's
even mean?
it's interesting for people and it's very, it could be good, like very, very top of funnel kind of
Mhm.
content. And it might have a place in your content ecosystem, but it's just not enough. And so many people put stuff out like that and they think that's enough. And it's just not, it's not going to do it.
Mhm.
It would be like the equivalent of, like I said, a health coach who's just posting a bunch of recipes on their blog and thinking that somehow that's going to get them clients.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten conversions for years without having like a super like hyper focused color palette, and I think it's fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Jana's like, let's move on.
No, no, I'm just thinking like, yeah, no, I mean, I think I think you have like a pretty
I've gone
recognizable
through
color palette, but that's not really art.
so many
Yeah.
iterations.
Yeah.
Sharon says, does the conversion content include a webinar or lead to a webinar?
It would lead to a webinar. So in HLC, we write blog posts and
Mhm.
your calls to action in your blog posts can vary, but they're all leading to like your paid offer.
Mhm.
But it could go through like a webinar. So if you have a webinar, you could definitely have that be like the main call to action for some of your blog posts or even all of them
Yeah.
if that's how you want to roll. And then the webinar itself, I don't teach how to create a webinar in HLC, but when you've written a collection of blog posts, a capsule library, the way I teach it, all the content you need for the webinar is actually in your capsule library of blog posts. You just need to pull it out and structure it like a webinar. It's really
Yeah.
makes it just super easy when you have all that thought leadership all fleshed out and like articulated and out on your blog to pull it all together into what you need for a webinar.
So good. Sharon, I hope that's helpful. So make sure you're putting your webinar in your posts. This is where we talk about where I was talking about before. I think Sharon joined, like, we can send the traffic to the site, to the blogs, but if people don't convert, it's probably like a deeper problem than that. Like if we're getting traffic there, that traffic source is validated. So now we have to kind of go back and like reverse engineer the content in a way, and Jana teaches about this. So um okay, off my soapbox about her expertise. The
Thank
next
you.
thing
You're
we're going to
sweet.
talk about is something I think a lot of people just don't realize that they can do, and that
Yeah.
is writing content about objections.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about
Um, Not really. I want to hear what you have to say, but I
that?
can talk about it too. I feel like
Um,
I don't do this enough,
mm,
but it is on my to-do list for the program I'm launching in the fall. So,
yeah. So writing content about objections is it can be really hard. It can be challenging, which is one of the reasons why when I feel like we're talking about HLC a lot, which is fine. I guess that's good. This is me modeling for everyone who's watching live and on the replay that creating content that's valuable where you talk about your offers is actually a really, really good way to sell your offers.
exactly.
Yep. So inside of HLC, we have content outlines for each of the
Mhm.
types of content that you write, and we have prompts, not like ChatGPT prompts, but regular prompts, like the old
Yeah.
kind where like you actually, I'm just telling you what you need to like answer in order to know what to put
Yeah.
on your blog post. And there are also ChatGPT prompts, and then we have GPTs that actually write the content for you that take all of your brain dumped answers to the prompts and put it into my high converting frameworks for blog
Yeah.
posts. Um, so like writing about objections, blog posts that answer objections is really hard. And I've done everything I can inside of HLC to make it as easy as possible, but it still can be a little hard from the mindset perspective because a lot of us don't want to sit with the objections. A lot of us don't want to hear why people don't want what we have or why people think it can't work for them.
Mhm.
It can be kind of triggering to sit with that and to think about it and to figure out how you want to talk about that and how you want to counter those objections. So it's challenging, but it's really, really worth it. Taking time to write those pieces of content is so good. It gives you like massive clarity and confidence about how to answer those objections. Um, and it's not just about countering them. It's not like someone says like, "Oh, that wouldn't work for me because this," and you're like, "Yes, it will," and they're like, "No, it won't." And you're like, "Yes, it will." No, it won't. It's not like that. It's more like you're helping people to know if that objection is valid, and maybe they do need something else before they can do this thing with you. Or more oftentimes than not, you're talking about why the thing that they think is in their way is not, it's not that it's not valid, it's just that it's not insurmountable and that you actually help them get over that, that part of it as well, like that barrier to getting the result that they want that's in your offer.
Mhm.
So that's really writing objections is about that and writing objection content. And it's just so good and powerful to have those pieces of content on your website
Mhm.
because people can read them and binge them all, which is great, and that's why we want them on our website. But also you can reuse them in all different ways, and it just helps like really crystallize your answer to those questions so that whenever people ask you those questions, whether it's live on a webinar, whether it's in the DMs, whether it's in an email, whether it's on a sales call, like you know what your philosophy is around that objection and you know how to help people figure out if that objection is something that actually is in their way or if, like I said, more times than not, it's not really in their way. They're just, perceiving it and they need to shift into a different way of thinking to
Yeah.
remove that barrier if they want the results that they can get with your thing, right? Or just in general with your offer or with the tool that you work with, like Pinterest as an example. So it's just really, really good to do that. So that's my tip is just like, even though writing about objections is hard, do it. It's so good. It's just really, really good to have those pieces of content under your belt and articulate it in that way.
Yeah.
Um, and then as a quick sub note on that, don't avoid talking about money when it comes to objections, because a lot of objections come down to it comes down to money. It's like, if I'm paying 9.97, for example, for high leverage content, am I going to make back 9.97 in one
Yeah.
way or another, whether that's through making more money or saving time? Even if you have something that's not a money making offer, for example, if you're a life coach or if you are a meditation coach or something like that, don't dance around it. Talk about how what you offer gives people ROI in different ways, including money, because that's what people are really looking for. As much as sometimes it can be a little hard to talk about it. Like you really you need to address it. So
Yeah.
that's tip number whatever 4, something like that.
4. Exactly.
Yeah.
So good. I need to work on this, and it's something that I'm going to work on when I create my first coaching program in the fall. I'm actually really excited about stretching that muscle a little bit.
I am excited for you. Yeah, and
So,
you can start by thinking about what objections people have not only to your offer but also to your tool. So those
mhm,
are the two ways to think about it. Objections to why your offer, and then objections to like, oh, if like for example, our Pinterest managers that are listening, what would be the objection to Pinterest? And some people will tell you like don't focus too much on the objections to the tool because you want people who already know they want the tool. And that's fine. You can spend more time on the other types of objections. But I do
mhm,
think that in some people's marketing, there is a place for that. Like when I was doing
yeah,
Pinterest marketing, and with my course and everything, I did have blog posts that answered people's objections, like, oh, I can't add another social media platform to my already crowded to-do list. Well, let me tell you about
yeah,
how Pinterest, number one, is not a social media platform, and number two, is going to actually make it so you don't have to spend as much time on social media, right? So.
yeah, yeah. Good. I wish I could remember all of this. I'll try to remember just to come back to this later.
Well, you've got me. You've got me in your back pocket anyway, girl.
Well, I also have HLC, so I could just,
That's true
actually
too.
log into my course and consume it.
You could, but I'm
That
just
is,
I'm just a WhatsApp away for you.
I know. Okay, I think was that all 5?
No, I think we have one more.
We have one more.
Hmm.
Um, well, the one that's in here is as a backup tip because we added one in, so that's why I think we
Oh,
had 5. But that's okay.
whatever.
A backup tip was to this is like a bonus, basically, is what the message says, is to ditch passive calls to action, like let me know if you need help. That's no one's gonna let you know if they need help. In fact, I intentionally use those calls to action in my emails when people are like canceling or they like email me and they're like, hey, I forgot about whatever. Like, thank you so much. I'm like, let me know if you need, I know they're never going to let me know if they need help, and that's fine, but I'm just trying to be kind.
Yes, make sure that they know you're thinking of them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you really want them to actually do the thing, which is what we do want with our
Yeah.
content, we want them to follow our calls to action. Having those passive calls to action, like when you're ready, I'm here.
Don't
Or
work.
let me know if you need help with this, are just, yeah, we need to get rid of those in our content. I wrote a post the other day on Instagram and then I repurposed it to all the other places as well. Um, that, and this is something that did not start in a blog post. Most of my content starts in a blog post, but every once in a while I get a wild hair and I created something on Instagram first, I think. And it said, you need a blog that's salesy AF.
I saw that.
And let me tell you, people who are listening, humans who are listening, let me know if you need help, is not salesy enough. Like you need a blog
No.
that actually brings people, has a very strong call to action for whatever the next step in your sales process is. So if you want them to opt in for a lead magnet, if you want them to book a call with you, if you want them to fill out an application to work with you, if you want them to just click and buy the thing,
Yeah.
whatever that is, you need to be very specific about what it is that you want them to do. Tell them why, tie it back to the content that you just wrote, and just really be very specific about what you want them to do, and stronger than, the passive calls to action that I see on a lot of people's blog posts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like book the audit, join the academy, get on the wait list for HLC, which
Yep.
everyone should do.
Yep.
Sharon says in the comments that that was funny how I said I use that in emails. I should follow this up by saying I have had people reach back out and I do offer them help.
Yeah, yeah. Just to be clear.
Just to
Yeah,
be clear, like if you do reach back out, I will answer your email.
right. Yep.
So
All right,
funny.
so let's see. We talked about focusing on content about problems that your clients already know they have, not things that you
Yep.
notice that they are that you notice that you wish that they knew that they had, but they don't. And a lot of times it's just a question of like repositioning that thing that you're talking about and doing that day-to-day thing where you figure out, okay, I think their problem is they don't have brand clarity, but that
Mhm.
what's really happening is that problem is causing this other problem that they know they have, right? Um, Number two is building your authority, basically by making sure you're not doing all DIY tips.
Mhm.
Um, Writing blog posts that answer objections was number three. Oh no, you know what? I skipped number two, which was I forget what number two was. Shoot. Oh, it was using your own call recordings
Yeah.
to uncover problems, objections, and just even the
Yep.
language that your people use. So you can use that in your content.
Yep.
And then the last one was no more like passive calls to action. Know what you want people to do next.
Hmm.
That's half the battle too, is just being clear on what calls to action to be using. And then use them and be strong about them and
And
really lead people down that path.
to kind of like piggyback on that, reverse engineer your content first. I do this with all of my content. What do I actually want the next step to be? We start there and we work backwards.
Yeah.
So
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
it's
Because
become second
otherwise,
nature for me now. Like I don't even
yes,
think about it.
exactly. Yep, because otherwise what happens is you write whatever you think you want to write and then you like tack on the call to action on the end, but you're kind of like, it's
Does
not,
that really fit?
yeah, exactly. It's like a square peg in a round hole.
Hmm.
Whereas if you think, okay, I'm writing a blog post about this topic and I want them, after they read it or while they're reading it, I want them to what? Apply to work with me, opt into the lead magnet, whatever it is. And then when you're writing it, you can be leading them down that path in a way that feels cohesive and
Yeah.
makes sense. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Next week, we're talking about 5 tips to write a high converting blog post. So we're following this 3-part series up with a really tactical live.
You missed an important word in that.
Please fill me in.
It's 5 tips. I think it is is it 5 tips? Is that what it is?
5 hot tips for writing high converting blog posts. That's the title.
Oh. Okay, so what I want to talk about next week is how to write a high converting blog post fast.
Fast. That's on the
Yes.
end. I missed that.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. Because
Fast.
we've been talking so much about all these ways to write high converting content for different
Hmm.
people and different types of roles.
Yeah.
The last 3 weeks we've been talking about this a lot, right?
Yeah.
And next week I want to talk about, yeah, ways that you can actually like just do it, get it done fast.
Yeah.
Um, because I really believe in creating a library and then reusing it. Like you don't have to blog forever. You just blog for a season and then you leverage what you've done to create high converting content in other places that you need to be. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
you get it
again,
done
like I'm
fast.
I'm in a season of updating. So,
Mhm.
going through all of our 200 blog posts and figuring out what's new and what needs updated.
Yeah.
So we're not writing new right now.
Yep. Yep. I have a student in my program, Sarah, who is a LinkedIn strategist, and she very quickly used the tools in HLC to write. She decided on all her topics.
Hmm.
And then she used all the tools in the second half of the course to outline and write her blog post. She used the GPTs and my four-step writing process. Didn't take her long. She got everything up on her website, and now she's actually going back through and refining as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because that's not really the process I teach, but I like the way that she did it because she got herself into action. She knew her brain and she knew she wanted to just get them up there and then
Hmm.
and go back and do a little bit of refining. So
Yeah.
um, I like that strategy. And you're doing it too. Although you're doing it as more of like you've been in business for so long that like that's kind of like a regular part of your rhythm is going through once a year or once every couple of years and updating things that need updating, right?
And getting rid of things. Like we're
Yeah.
actively actually
Weeding the garden.
delisting posts, and I'm doing 301 redirects to because somehow over the years we've ended up with like for example, we had three posts that were the same.
Yeah.
But we never went back and updated the original. We just added two more on over the years. So
Oh, yeah.
getting rid of those two, updating the third, redirecting the other two URLs to the third. That way Google is happy,
Yep.
Pinterest is happy,
Yep.
everyone's happy.
Yep. And I just want to say for service providers who are listening live or on the replay later on that what Heather's doing here is very advanced and it's down the road for you.
Yeah.
You don't need 200 blog posts. You
No.
don't you don't need to do all these things, anytime in the near future to keep, Google happy or whatever. We just start, I think, with a capsule library
Yeah.
and maybe in 6 or 7 years when you're in Heather's position, if you want to be in that position where you're running like a big, membership and one-to-many offers and whatnot, and you're ranking on Google and all that good stuff, maybe you are doing this optimization, but it's not even 201 or 301. It's like
This
it's like
is seven.
it's like advanced trigonometry.
Yeah, this is seven
Yeah.
years of writing content, by the way.
Yeah.
I just did the
Hmm.
math because I didn't start this blog until
Hmm.
2018. But the
Yep.
website was before that. Like Heather
Yep.
Farris has been online for 8 years. I mean, I've been
Hmm.
offering services for longer than that, but
Yep.
yeah, it's just bad habits, Jana.
Hmm.
That's really what it comes down to.
No.
So, okay, well, that's what we're talking about next week. Same time, same place. This is my last live in the United States.
Oh
We're
my
taking
God.
a 1 week break. Then I come
Yes.
back to you and I'll be in my new apartment in the Netherlands. So next week we'll be
Can't
here.
wait.
The following week, I'm going to be on an airplane during the live. And then during the like during our typical live time frame,
Yeah.
I'll be on an
Right.
airplane. So we're not going to be here.
Right.
Then the following week we'll be back.
Yep. And I just added some topics and some dates so people can go in and turn on the notifications for those live streams that they'd like to attend. I think I added just like 4 new dates and topics for upcoming
Yeah.
ones after you get back. Um, yeah. And then
And I'm
that's it.
actually, Jana, just to hold myself accountable, I'm going to tell you this here.
Okay.
I'm going to fix the mobile view of the
Oh,
website page right now.
okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah. You can
And then
always,
I'm gonna add this live and I'm gonna fix the mobile view because
okay.
there's a problem with YouTube Lives not embedding on websites like normal long
Oh,
form videos. It's the /live/ problem. So I have to embed a
there's
different
a
way and I have to tweak
workaround.
it.
Okay.
No.
Oh.
So that's what's happening. So I'm gonna do that now. So you guys will, next time, we'll have a new link you can go to anytime
watch
we
the
talk
replay.
about, yeah, watch the replay, sign up for the following lives if you want to. They'll, like, everything will be linked.
Cool.
So awesome. Okay. Goodbye.
See you soon.
Cool. Okay. So